Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Not here to make you happy, not here to make you sad. Your feelings are irrelevant when debates are to be had. The Belfast Bapcast, loud and clear, covering the topics of the sphere, Working overtime to bring you many stories, waking up today the same labor and Tories. A stage, it isn't our part to play, is bringing you knowledge in this way. No filter, no fuss, just tell unfiltered fact, much like the words on those Christian tracks.
Welcome to this evening's episode of the Belfast Bapcast. So there comes a moment when a man stops reacting to the noise of the culture and starts building on a level that the noise can't reach. That's not silence, it's ascension. Some people cling to conflict because it's all they've ever known. But when your motives shift from adrenaline to purpose, truth becomes inevitable, and this platform is not here to debate chaos, it's here to unearth clarity in a world of confusion. Starting this evening with a reappearance of Matt the Tissier. So welcome back to the Belfast Podcast, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. How are you?
Yes, not too bad. We've had some very interesting guests since you've last been on, across all spectrums, to be fair. What about yourself? What's been going on in the life of Matt?
Same old, really, down this way. Still playing lots of golf, still going do my after dinner speaking, and yeah, trying to have fun with the family, all that kind of stuff.
So the reason I brought you back on this evening, just due to the sort of cultural moment that we're in, where I feel that we're in at the moment of weaponized division amongst sort of every line, and very few having the clarity, the definity, or the purpose to stand out or stand up and speak out on it. We're looking at symptoms instead of the cause, so Gary Neville being the sort of precursor as to why to why your name popped into my head, and the whole furore around the Union Jack, etc., and him. Just starting off, what's your thoughts on what I just said about the culture, and then leading in to Gary's controversy?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think we are divided in any which way they possibly can, and once there starts to become a little bit of unity somewhere, the spanner is thrown in the works, and all of a sudden that unity is split up. I say that as part of what was the freedom movement in this country, which was rallying against COVID-19 and the build-up staunch resistance to the government and everything surrounding COVID. And then as soon as the war in Russia and Ukraine started, that group of people all of a sudden were divided, because some were on one side, some on the other. And then when there started to become a little bit of a consensus on that, the war in Gaza started, Gaza and Israel, and again divided everybody on that subject as well. It's a very easy tactic to see when you step back out of all the conflict.
Inevitably, though, with all these sort of calamities going on, it keeps you from looking introspectively. It stops you from looking within and looking at your own circle and analysing your own interactions with the world. And I think if we were all to put that as the sort of paramount basis before looking outward, A, we would be in a lot better place spiritually, and B, as a whole, we'd be in a lot better place. But I think we're beyond sort of thoughts and ideas of utopia. It's kind of clear that people are willing to buy into the outrage. People sort of are trying to fill that emptiness with different causes and different plights, and it's like the next current thing. The media stirs up a storm around Ukraine or whatever the case may be, and they jump on that bandwagon. what do you think is behind that, or the
What do I
spirit
think is
behind it?
behind it? I think Satan is behind it, quite frankly. I
I'm
think
glad you were so frank.
no, absolutely. I don't see any other reasonable explanation. And the divisions that are being caused. You're absolutely right. It does stop you from looking at yourself, and your spiritual welfare. And it's much easier. It's a much simpler life if you don't buy into all that stuff, and you focus on yourself and trying to affect the people around you, by being a beacon of light in a world of darkness.
Yeah, and it's understanding your role within your sphere as well, because every person sort of has a different spiritual role. Since we're speaking in that level, some are watchmen, some are leaders, some are different things. But I feel that the times we're living in is so apparent that everyone's like running around looking for acceptance, looking for meaning, looking for purpose, accepting that there's nefarious things going on. Like you said, the freedom movement that was set up to go against COVID-19. They'll accept there's evil, but they'll draw the line at accepting that there's an opposing side to that, and that is Christ, and that's redemption. And the truth movement, or whatever you want to call it, it's just another form of the world. It's mental, as I said. I had another guest on the other day. It's mental masturbation. You're going down endless rabbit holes without ever coming to any conclusions, when we've had the answers in our hands and in our households from birth. The truth has always been evident. There's always been a spiritual war. It's just now ridiculous, and it's amped up so much over the last 10 years. Everything is weaponized. There's nothing left that's sacred.
No, absolutely. I truly believe that there is evil in the world. And I believe that there are a group of people who do have this desire to control the whole of humanity, and I believe they are satanic worshippers. And there is a battle going on of good against evil, and the reason why I came to Jesus is I wanted to be on the right side of that battle, and I wanted to be part of the good, and do my bit to try and turn things around in this world. And that's the route that I've chosen to go down.
So obviously there was a time before, whenever you were doing punditry and you were working for Sky Sports, and before you started noticing inconsistencies with messaging about COVID or whatever, did you feel in the pit of your soul something spiritually that beforehand ever, that the system that you were working within was not clean, was not pure, did not align with your goals? Or were you spiritually blind at that stage? Or
So when I was working in the media, although I was working in it, I didn't immerse myself in it, if that makes any sense. So my day's work at Sky on a Saturday consisted of being picked up from my house here at 9:30 in the morning. I'd go to work. I'd work from 12 till 6, and at 6 o'clock there'd be a car waiting for me to drive me straight back home afterwards. So I kind of went in, did my job, got out again. I didn't spend any time really in the system, getting bogged down with the politics of the higher ups. I just went in, did my job, kept my head down, and got on with life. And yeah, I was pretty asleep up until 2020. Really, I mean, I'd had inklings of things that weren't right in the past. 9/11 never sat right with me about the story we were told about that. There was always too many inconsistencies there for me to believe the official narrative. But it's difficult. What do you do as an individual? It's hard to make a big difference when you kind of feel like you're pretty alone in your views. But it's only when things really start coming out you actually realise that a lot of people share those views, and you're not mad, and you're just a rational human being who looks at the evidence and takes a viewpoint after you've seen all the evidence, and you can disregard what's going on in the media, the mainstream media, because there's always an agenda behind all the stories that they pump out over those channels.
Yeah, 100%. And do you feel that what there's obviously something that makes you different to other people, that your image is not important, you're able to stand on principle regardless of consequence, and that's something very few people have, and it is a unique, especially in these times where social media is a thing, and it's all about self-importance, self-image, projecting the best of everything, and you're not wanting to upset the apple cart, but when something's wrong, you were willing to stand your ground and pay the consequence irrespective. And I think where you're at now in life probably is proof that if you stand on what is right, you will be provided for, you'll be looked after. You've probably seen blessings in ways you never expected.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's absolutely right. I just realised actually that I forgot to address your point about Gary Neville in your earlier question.
That's all right, we've plenty of time.
So let me just go back to that, because I don't like missing out things when I've been asked questions, because people go, "Oh, well, you swerved that answer. You didn't say anything about that."
Politicians now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be accused of being one of them.
No.
So to address your earlier point, the Gary Neville stuff, I just felt like Gary has forgotten where he's come from. He's become a bit of a champagne socialist, in my opinion. He's taken a fight on with the middle-aged white men, as he calls them, without realising that those middle-aged white men are the ones that have put him on the pedestal that he is speaking from right now. And just goes to show the type of person I think he's proved himself to be, that he's willing to basically crap on the people that put him into his position that he's in.
He's viable, and that's what separates the likes of him from yourself. You're self-aware, you know what you're about, you know what you stand for, and you know when something doesn't sit right with your soul.
Yeah,
and
I also
irrespective.
The point that you made before I went back to the Gary Neville one is that I think what sets people apart that are able to do what I've done is that we have a strong mind, we have the courage of our convictions, and we don't have an ego. And I think that's what it kind of boils down to. I've never really taken much notice of people's opinion of me, because I spent 17 years as a professional footballer knowing that I was good at what I did, and yet having absolutely people in the media who would be very happy to just criticise any small point about my play, and yet the reason why I was able to take that is because I understood that those people had no idea what they were talking about, because they didn't have an ounce of the talent that I had in my chosen sport, and yet here they were offering their expert opinion on what I was doing wrong. So I don't really hold much sway to those people. So I was able to brush off criticism very easily for those 17 years, and that stood me in good stead for what happened in 2020.
100%, and I don't think I'm a great believer in like predestination, and all those things shaped your person up to that point to make you be able to do that in 2020. All those things were like the training ground. You knew your skills were undeniable, and I've told you before, I know fuck all about football. So I'm only going to what my mates have told me. You were a legend in the game, so like you were aware of your abilities, and
But yeah,
as you say, just
I
noise.
also had the sorry, Mark, to interrupt. I also had the courage of my convictions that when I was being pressured by the media, not so much by my agent, but definitely by the media, into them trying to get me out of Southampton and signing for a bigger club. I also had the courage of my convictions to know that no, I feel like this is the place where I belong. This is the job that I was put here to do, and I did that for my football club, and I spent my entire career fighting to keep Southampton in the Premier League. And that's what we did, and that's I'm very proud of the fact that I spent my entire football career in the top flight of English football. Despite
And
the odds
on any
saying
level, loyalty in any level of life is much more like precious than going with the next big thing, like signing for the next team on the way up, like being part of building something, and loyalty is worth 1,000 times more than the money side of things, in my opinion. That ethos has probably got you to many places in life that others just couldn't get to, or wouldn't even understand. Like a Gary Neville, like champion socialists, they're just not self-aware. They feel that because they now have money or like a sort of a platform or whatever, that they're above the average person. But we're all blood and flesh, and we're all corrupt, and we're all searching for something. We're all looking for something, and
I'm a great believer. I'm a great believer, Mark, in treating people the way that you want to be treated.
100%, 100%, and that can include whether or not you agree or disagree with them.
Absolutely,
and that's something that's greatly forgot about these days. You can't have a disagreement anymore. You want to that other person not to live or not to be around because you don't agree with their point of view. And that's all been weaponized. That's all been incrementally brought in. This started in the 90s. I can remember like certain elements of the wokeness started creeping in very subtly, and it's all done incrementally because humans don't accept dramatic change.
Yeah, all that political correctness nonsense that started in the 90s, it's led us to where we are now. That was the first step towards it. And you're right, incrementally, they've just, because nobody's fought back enough against it, they've just kept taking more, and it's the boiling the ethical frog situation.
And nobody ever will. Like there's not going to be like a revolution. There's not going to be. The revolution's controlled, is what I mean. Is like, so at the moment we have elements within Ireland, Northern Ireland, the United Kingdom, that have started waking up to a degree that they see that there's like political malfeasance with the mass migration, but they're focusing their energy on the migrants as opposed to the legislation, the people that introduced the legislation, and on a larger scale, like the spirit behind that's introduced that to that sphere. And like society, like I've always been a conspiracy theorist. But the older I get, it's clearly engineered. Everything is so narrative driven. It's
absolutely
undeniable at this point.
No, 100% undeniable. Yeah.
Have you seen the video where they have like 100 different or was it hundreds? An over exaggeration. Say 25 different news stations on America, all reading the exact same script, word for word.
Yeah.
And
well, it was just like during COVID. About 3 or 4 months in, I think it was. Every single leader across the world who was making addresses to their nations just happened to use the phrase that we're going to build back better. And it was it was
Or
just it was
new
comical.
normal.
If I'm honest, it was so comical, it was so obvious. It was like they were actually telling you that, look, this is a global takeover. We are all in the same club together. You're not in it, and we're going to use this little code word where we're all going to say "Build Back Better" in our speeches, and you're just going to accept it. And people just went, "Oh, I know, it's just a coincidence." Really? All those people, just a coincidence? What I've learned over the last few years is there are no coincidences.
No. And I think the idea of these politicians are just buffoons, continuously making bad mistakes. Like the most visual representation of that would be Boris Johnson. Like the actual sort of visible buffoon. That's what we imagine them all as. But they're calculated. They're bought and paid for, and
yeah,
if they're in any way have any say over like the system, they're part of it, and that's why there's never any change and never any progress or any sort of
anybody who's got the backbone to stand up against the system, they will use the media to destroy that person's reputation, and if that doesn't count, they'll just bump them off. Simple as that.
Yeah, so the old Jeffrey Epstein them, and there's another thing. We have like sort of revelations starting to happen within society, and all of a sudden we have like a Jeffrey Epstein case drop, and it's almost like, right, so we know that the higher ups are doing these really nefarious things, but they're like concentrating it all on just this one group of higher ups. It's just the Jewish people, or it's just the whatever. It's just Jeffrey Epstein. It's just this one nefarious character, and it's been going on since 2019. And this is not a Trump position because but it's boring now. It's clearly a distraction. Like, if there was going to be any real revelation, we would have got it by now. It's just wheeled out every time to sort of stir up distraction, or and it's the same way. I know it's not long just passed, but the whole Charlie Kirk thing's already weaponized as well as a political infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is weaponized. Every incident is weaponized and turned in a way and spun in a way that helps the narrative of the governments or the people that control the governments, and it's become so obvious now. It's almost laughable.
So, in the United Kingdom, especially, what you were saying about the working class white man, who give Gary Neville his platform, are the exact base that are manipulated at every turn throughout this country's history, especially. They were the ones sent off to die en masse on all the world wars, and there's multiple questions around those that we're not going to get into now. But it's always the working class that are the poor, the most, what you would say, like even the least of us amongst us are treated the worst, and it shouldn't be that way. We should be treating the worst off amongst us as we treat the highest amongst us. There's no, as you said, treat others as you wish to be treated, but there's nobody that truly echoes that in the public light. It's always attaching yourself to a group or to a side. There's no true everybody is equal, and that's not everybody is equal that I agree with everything that everybody says, but everybody is equal that your divinity is the.
And everybody should be entitled to their own point of view. We're all different. We all got different thoughts. And yet, perfect example of that is Sky, who employed myself and Jamie Carragher. I questioned the COVID narrative, the government's COVID narrative. I also questioned why I should wear a Black Lives Matter badge on Sky. And because of those things, I got sacked. And Jamie Carragher out of his car window, spat at a young girl in the car next to him, and he didn't get sacked. He was taken off air for a little while before the heat cooled down, and was invited back on again. And I think that tells you everything about the media and what their narrative is, and where the only people that are allowed a voice on the television are ones that are happy to go with the current theme of the day and the current narrative. And I wasn't one of those people who was prepared to do that.
Yeah, the moment you meet any resistance with that narrative, there is just utter shutdown. It's the most dangerous thing to any system that has such control is someone who still has the ability to freely think and to stand by the outcome of their thoughts, regardless of consequence. Because, in today's urge to be accepted or be popular or be an influencer or whatever, talking to somebody who started a podcast, that I've no desires of being an influencer or anything. I want to bring clarity to people. I cover a wide range of topics, but ultimately, if it's not leading to redemption or it's not leading to anything good, well, what's the point?
No, absolutely right. Yeah, and that's what it's all about. People find their own way in life. They find their own journeys. I've been on quite a bumpy journey over the last few years, but that led me to find Jesus, and I couldn't be happier that it led me down that path. I really couldn't, and I would urge other people who are having similar thoughts to what I had in 2020 to just take a look into it. Go read the Bible, and just see how many prophecies were made before Jesus came, and how many of those turned out to be true. And after all these years, thousands of years, and people still can't debunk the Bible. So it is, Jesus is the
if
truth.
anything, it's being more reinforced with the historical finds that keep happening. And if you were to explain in the plainest possible terms the shift sparsely within from pre-Christ to post-Christ, what's the change for somebody who has no knowledge of faith or the Bible? What would be the description?
I would say the biggest change that I've noticed is I have no fear in my life. There is no fear. There is no stress. There is no worry, because I know that as a follower of Jesus, I will be provided for in any way that He sees fit. So that for me is the biggest change. And I know I don't fear death at all. So that's why I'm happy to speak out the way that I have done, because there are some people that have spoken out in countries around the world, and that includes leaders, and they've mysteriously gone down with some kind of illness and died pretty soon afterwards. I know that is a possibility, because we're told that Christians will be persecuted for their time on earth, and I'm prepared to accept that.
It's pretty okay when you know the final outcome, isn't it?
That's 100% right.
And I have known the truth, or was exposed to the truth, my entire life and fought against it. I was brought up in a traditional Christian household, and I ended up going into every vice that the world had to offer, and fruitless. Nothing plugged that hole, nothing fed that desire. There is nothing that this world has to offer that's going to give you that contentment that you're yearning for. It's not a physical thing. And as someone who was at the sort of precipice of platform and exposure within the media through your football, how would you compare sort of the height of your fame to now? in like a spiritual sense, like pros versus cons,
Yeah, no, I think even, during the height of my so-called fame in the 1990s, I didn't get carried away with it. I kept my feet on the ground. I've got a fantastic family who, 3 big brothers and my mum and dad, who would never let me get too big for my boots, and I knew that, and that's always been the case. So I didn't get too high when the highs were high, and I don't get too low when the lows are low. And I think that's the be all and end all, really, is to I think was it Rudyard Kipling who said about if you can face victory and defeat and treat both of those imposters the same, then I think that's a pretty good way to live your life.
Yeah, and I've always envied people like yourself who have been able to like remain neutral in the highs and the lows, because I've had a lot of like propensity to get swept up in the highs and the lows, because I've been lost a lot of my life, to be honest, and it's finally nice not to be, and it's something that I couldn't have came to by myself, but clearly you had stability growing up. I would say island mentality probably had a lot to do with that as well, that not allowing you to get too big for your boots. The big brothers are certainly not going to let that happen.
Yeah, no, I've always appreciated where I came from, and I've always kept in touch with my island. I still try to keep an eye on what's happening over there, and even though I've been left there for 40 years, I still consider it to be my home. That's where I spent the first 16 years of my life, and that's where a lot of my personality was molded by my parents and my brothers. And I'm very thankful for it. I had an amazing childhood. We didn't have much money. I grew up on a council estate in Guernsey, but I couldn't have wished for a happier childhood and a safer childhood. Come to that, Guernsey was an amazing place. You didn't have to worry about crime. It really was incredible when I look back now, and I probably didn't appreciate it at the time just how lucky I was to have grown up in such a safe environment.
Yeah, and I think there's like an element of people always hear someone older than themselves saying, "Oh, when I was a boy, things were so much better," and they're like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, here we go." But it's actually true. We think we're advancing and we think we're evolving with like the technology advances. We've got so removed from our natural humanity, and
I think technology has advanced, but humans have gone backwards.
Yeah, that's pretty on point, because even things like artificial intelligence, there obviously there's pros and cons, but it's going to get to a point where you no longer give a 3-second off your mind to think about something. You just type it in and there you go. You remove any ability to interact with the spiritual and the thinking world, and you're just a bot.
I think that's definitely part of the beast system for me, that AI stuff. As you say, it can be quite useful. There are things that can be quite useful, but there's way more of it that can be used for nefarious means, and I think it will be, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, where do you see this all leading? I mean, not just the United Kingdom, because I think it's clear we're sort of on a world trajectory, not a country. It's a global thing.
I think what they're trying to establish is a one world government, basically, and a one world religion as well, which I don't think includes God and Jesus in that at all.
That's where it's ecumenical.
Sorry.
I say it couldn't, because it's ecumenical. It goes against everything that Christ taught, and we're seeing those moves sort of already being made on the sort of physical front with Prince Charles and Pope Leo. as like a symbolic meeting of the Protestant and the Catholic Church, you know, and it's not it isn't a Protestant and Catholic thing. It's within the beast system and out of the beast system thing. It's, you know, so those that can recognize what it is, and you know, it's the old, those with eyes to see will see, and those with ears to hear will hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's why, like, the constant pursuit of conspiracy and looking at, you know, the Beatles didn't write their own songs, and Paul McCartney was changed in the 60s by the Tavistock Institute or whatever. Fair enough, that may be the case, but so what? You know, where does that lead you to? Is that, you know, unless that's leading you on to, like, redemption, that's pointless. You know, you're just going to lead on to the next conspiracy topic, or, you know, it's constant searching. You're not in any way on a higher plane than those that you call normies. You're just in a different lane of the same thing, you know.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartely agree with that.
And I imagine when you stepped out of and spoke up in 2020, you were tried to be recruited, no doubt, by many of these so-called freedom movements, or, you know, like the political side of things. And
there was quite a few movements, and I've engaged with a lot of these movements to a certain point, but I wouldn't align myself 100% with any of them, because you know, I don't see politics as a particularly good way to try and solve things. I think the system is completely corrupt and broken. So I was invited to the Reform Party headquarters. So, you know, and in all fairness, I'd be quite happy to go and get shown around the headquarters, but it wouldn't mean in any way that I align myself with all their values, because I don't think I do, quite frankly. But it wouldn't stop me from going to have a look around. And this is what people have to understand, is that just because you might agree with somebody on one thing, it doesn't mean that you agree with them on every single other point that these people have come across. So I can agree with President Trump on one point, and you know, if you do that, people look at you like you've got three heads. We'll go, well, yeah, but actually that point is actually very, very sensible. And there's other things that I would disagree with him on. You know, and it's just crazy that people can't have these mentalities where you can just judge every issue on their merits, and not just be lumped in with somebody because you go, oh, I agree with him with one thing. Oh, so you must agree with him with everything else that he says. You know, it's really childish way of thinking, and it's something that's really frustrated me over the last few years, that people can't be mature enough to be able to listen to people. And even though they might disagree on one subject, still listen to them on another subject and be able to agree with them, even if they are opposed politically or with whatever way you want. They've still got to be mature enough to be able to think for themselves and judge each little subject on its merits. It's simple.
100%. And you do not have to, like, for example, me and my wife, like, we disagree on so many things in life, but it's not a conflict. You know what I mean? It's okay. It's okay to not agree.
Yeah, agree to disagree. It's one of the principles you should live your life by. You know, sometimes you've got opposing opinions. Hey, so what? Let's move on. You know, we're still nice people. Let's just crack on with it.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying about, if you're seen with a person or whatever, you're sort of lumped in with their views or what they're associated with. Like, in this country, there's like street patrols and certain movements that have, like, sort of subtly tried to, like, ask me to come on board because I've been getting a bit more of a platform or whatever. I have no desire to be part of any movement. You know, like I may agree with certain statistics or certain factual information that you state, you know, but I'm not about that life, you know, like I it is a spiritual battle, and like that is feeding into the same system that you're angry at, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, just keep in your lane, think for yourself, and make decisions based on your knowledge and your gut feeling sometimes.
100%. What without being too negative, but we have to be realistic about things. Like things are not going to improve, I don't think, from a spiritual point of view. There may be like a false awakening or whatever, but
I don't know. I think there's been. I saw some statistics. There's been a quite a big increase in the amount of young people that are attending churches in this country, and you know that gives me great hope that you know the younger generation are actually becoming awake to the battle of good versus evil that's going on in this world.
yeah, I think there's definitely a thirst there for knowledge and a thirst for spiritual knowledge, but I'm really concerned about that being hijacked.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Everything good that ever comes about will try to be hijacked. I have no doubt about that, including the church. You know, I think they've been infiltrated at high levels. I think the church's response to COVID was absolutely disgusting. Quite
Look,
frankly.
if they've got tax exemption, they're got at by the system. You know, the church is the gathering of God's people, whether it's in a front room, a field, or the back of a car. It doesn't matter. A church is not a physical building. Like how can they sit with their constant requests for new roofs and collections while people are starving in the street? Where's the Christianity in that? Where's Christ's message in that? You know, that imagery. Like you've got the Church of England that has millions upon millions of pounds worth of real estate, whilst preaching about, you know, poverty and all the rest. Like it's so clearly a false.
We live in an upside down world. I think sometimes there's a lot of introversion that goes on. You know, that includes the church. A lot of stuff in government where they just will come out with absolute nonsense, which is the, you know, complete opposite of what the truth is. There's this real inversion that goes on just to try to confuse people, and it works a lot of the time.
I feel if this video gets any sort of traction and the media gets a hold of a couple of your statements from this, you'll be made to be a complete crackpot because you've spoke about God and you spoke about good and evil, and you know it's so demonized, yet it's clear. You know, if you just stop, be still, and look out, it's clear that there's something bigger than us going on here. And
absolutely,
what side do you want to be on? You know.
Yeah, no, that's what it all boils down to at the end of the day. So, and that's why I can still go about my days. You know, people say to me on social media sometimes, "How come everything you post is negative and blah blah blah?" And I'm like, well, what you see on social media is a snapshot of like a few seconds of my day where I'll just put my thoughts out there about what's going on in the world. So you don't see me for the other 24 hours, 23 hours of the day. So how can you judge what my life is like? You know, I have, still have, and have had from the very minute I was born. I've had a very privileged life because I've been in a position where, firstly, I've been happy and I've been safe. And I've then been doing a job which I loved, which, you know, was my hobby basically, and I got paid for it for 17 years, and then I got paid to talk about it for another 18 years after that. So you know, it's I feel like I'm in a very privileged position given the life that I've had.
Yeah, and the diametric opposite to what Gary Neville clearly is. So, with that in mind, what would you say to the people that have given you the platform? What would be your life advice and family advice? I mean, it doesn't have to be specific, but just, you know, generic.
Well, my life advice would probably be treat everybody as you'd like to be treated. first and foremost. Love your family with all your heart, and obviously you love Jesus with all your heart first and foremost, and everything that stems from that will give you a happier life.
100%. And just to satisfy the fans out there, what was the any moment on the pitch that you can relate to a spiritual time, or?
Well, I can point you to something that happened to me in my in the last ever game at our Southampton's old stadium, the Dell. The stadium was going to be knocked down. We had a new stadium, and the last ever match that was played at that stadium was against Arsenal, and I was getting on a bit. I was 32 at the time and not really in the team very much, had a lot of injuries, and hadn't actually scored a Premier League goal that whole season. And about 5 days before the game, my manager came to me and he said, look, we appreciate what you've done for this football club for the last 16 years. So I'm just telling you now that on Saturday, when the final whistle blows, I will make sure that you will be on the pitch, because you deserve that honour to be on the pitch when the final whistle goes for the last ever game at the Dell. And from that moment on, I was then absolutely consumed with the thought of wanting to score the last ever goal at our stadium. And I can just remember, just for the next 5 days, nothing else was coming into my head apart from how was I going to score the last goal. And the game stood at 2-2, and I was sent on as a substitute with about 15 minutes to go. And in the 88th minute, I think it was, the ball dropped to me. It was a very difficult chance on my weaker foot, and I hit this half volley, and it was the weirdest feeling ever, because I knew as soon as the ball dropped to me and I swung my left foot at it, as soon as it left my foot, I knew where it was going, and I knew the goalkeeper couldn't stop it. And it flew into the top corner of the net, and we won the game 3-2, and I became the last ever scorer of a goal at the old stadium. And I feel like there was some kind of spirituality behind that, some kind of manifestation that I was able.
I have chills, and I don't even like football, so there's definitely something behind it. The description of that has made the hairs stand on my back. That would be a pretty immense feeling, especially given your loyalty to the club and how significant the role it's had in your life and your privileges, as
Absolutely.
You've stated.
And if I turn my camera around there in my office, that is the picture of me striking the ball to score that last ever goal.
Unreal, and that's a moment.
It's a very special place in my household.
Captured in history. And even with that, though, that amazes me. Like that, you've had moments like that of the absolute antithesis of public fame and greatness, but you've remained so grounded, and there's only a very few who are able to do that in those worlds. A guy I was speaking to a couple of weeks back, or last week, Dan Severn, he's a UFC veteran and a professional wrestling veteran, and two worlds that are so seedy and corrupt and devious, but he managed to stay resolute and true to his values throughout, and clearly you have as well, and that's why it's an absolute honour to have you back on the show and speak about things. So thank you very much, Matt.
No, my pleasure, Mark.
I'm sure you'll probably get another random message from me at some point, so
no problem.
Thank you kindly, and everyone, if you could like, share, and subscribe, and get the message out there. So thank you very much.
Not here to make you happy, not here to make you sad. Your feelings are irrelevant when debates are to be had. The Belfast Bapcast, loud and clear, covering the topics others fear, Working overtime to bring you many stories, waking up today the same Labour and Tories. A stage, it isn't our part to play, is bringing you knowledge in this way. No filter, no fuss, just tell unfiltered fact, much like the words on those Christian tracks.